Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the resources you choose and really dig into what matters.
Think of it as your personal shortcut. We wade through the material so you get the key takeaways fast.
And today we're jumping into a book you pointed us to, one that gets talked about a lot in sales circles, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blount.
Yeah, it's definitely made some waves.
Right. So for you listening, our mission here is to pull out the absolute core of Blount's ideas on proactive sales outreach.
We want to find those, actionable strategies, the things that can help you avoid that roller coaster of an inconsistent sales pipeline.
Exactly. Keep it focused, insightful, no overwhelm.
And Blount's book, it's really positioned as a modern sales playbook. Lots of practical techniques, but also a big focus on mindset, moving past some of the older, maybe less effective ways of finding new business.
Okay, let's get into it. Blount comes out swinging with a pretty bold claim, doesn't he?
He really does. He basically says consistent proactive prospecting is, and this is his phrase, the real secret to sustained sales success.
The real secret. He sees it as the main engine driving steady income in sales.
And his focus is laser sharp on the pipeline. He's super direct, saying most sales failures, they trace right back to an empty pipeline.
Not closing skills, not presentations, but just not enough prospects coming in the door.
Exactly. It's the failure to prospect consistently.
And he really pushes back against this idea that there's some kind of easy button in sales,
Oh, absolutely. He dismisses that whole narrative that prospecting is dead or old-fashioned. You hear that sometimes, but he's not buying it.
He sees looking for that easy way out as like a major pitfall.
Precisely. So instead of searching for shortcuts, he points us straight towards mindset. That's foundational for him.
Right, the 7 mindsets of fanatical prospectors. What's the key takeaway there for someone listening?
Well, the big thing is cultivating focus, persistence, and that internal drive. It's about building the mental muscle to handle setbacks, handle rejection, which, let's face it, is part of sales.
Totally. You need that resilience.
And he brings up this idea, success leaves clues. Basically, look at what top performers do, figure out their patterns, and then, well, copy them.
Kind of reverse engineer their success. Makes sense.
It does, but it runs counter to that desire for the easy fix, that myth that maybe cold calling is dead or something.
He wants to bring people back to basics, to how sales actually works on the ground.
Yeah, and he tackles the discomfort head on. That feeling of interrupting people. Nobody really likes doing that.
Right. It feels intrusive, but Blount argues that sometimes interrupting is actually necessary to start a valuable conversation.
And those fears, what if they're rude? What if they just say no? Those are the things that often lead to putting prospecting off. Procrastination.
Which leads straight back to that empty pipeline problem.
He tells this great story about an outbound prospecting team. They weren't even making truly cold calls. They were calling dormant customers, people they already had a relationship with.
And even then, there was hesitation, fear.
Oh, yeah. Lots of anxiety in the team. But once they pushed through it and actually started dialing,
Big results, I bet.
huge, like $100,000 in sales
Yeah.
every week. It just shows that fear isn't just about cold calls. It can pop up even with warm leads or trying to cross-sell. It's just human nature to avoid rejection.
That's a really powerful point for you, the listener. But he also warns against just picking one method and sticking to it, right? No silver bullets here either.
Definitely. He talks about the folly of putting all your eggs in one basket and the lunacy of one-size-fits-all.
So the takeaway for you is that your ideal prospecting mix, it's probably unique to your situation.
Exactly. What works best depends heavily on, your industry, your product, your territory, your specific goals. It's not one-size-fits-all.
Can you give some examples of how that might differ?
Sure. Like in some sectors, maybe aggressive cold calling is still king. In others, it might be all about building relationships through in-person networking.
And you need to tailor it based on things like deal complexity, customer type.
Yeah, absolutely. Even geography matters. Like, is pounding the pavement viable in a dense city versus a huge rural territory? You got to adapt.
Which leads us nicely into what he calls the 3 core laws of prospecting. These are like fundamental truths he sees operating underneath successful prospecting.
Right. These are the principles he says always apply.
Okay, let's break them down for you. First one, the universal law of need. What's that about?
Essentially, the more desperate you need a deal, the harder it is to get it. When your pipeline's empty because you haven't prospected, that desperation, it leaks out. Prospects feel it.
He uses that example of Jerry, right? Hanging all his hopes on a couple of deals.
Yeah, and the more he needed them, the more they seemed to slip away. That pressure makes prospects nervous, makes you maybe make bad concessions.
It becomes this negative cycle.
Exactly. And he contrasts Jerry with Sandra, who prospects consistently. She has other irons in the fire, so she doesn't operate from that place of desperation. She's more relaxed, more confident.
Okay. Law number 2, the 30-day rule. What should you know about this one?
This one's about pipeline decay. Blount says if you stop actively prospecting for about 30 days, maybe a bit more, maybe a bit less, your pipeline just starts to, well, stagnate and shrink. Pretty fast, actually.
It highlights that need for constant refilling, like tending a garden, you said.
Yeah, you stop planting. Eventually, there's nothing to harvest. You got to keep adding fresh opportunities. He tells a story about a guy, Greg, experienced salesperson, let prospecting slide over the holidays.
And came back to...
An empty pipeline 90 days later, total mess.
Yeah.
It just hammers home that consistency isn't just nice, it's essential.
Absolutely. Which connects right into the third law, the law of replacement. This sounds critical.
Oh, it is. This one's about keeping the pipeline full. You have to constantly add new prospects to replace the ones moving through your process, whether you win them or lose them.
And the key is how many you need to add, right? It's linked to your closing ratio.
Precisely. He uses Becky's math problem. If she closes, say, 1 out of every 10 prospects,
Then when she closes one deal,
she's essentially used up 10 opportunities. So to keep her pipeline level, she doesn't need just 1 new prospect. She needs 10 new prospects to replace the ones she burned through.
wow. If you ignore that, it's easy to see how you'd end up in a sales slump.
Direct path. Which is why he spends time dissecting the anatomy of a sales slump. It's a cycle many salespeople unfortunately recognize.
Walk us through that cycle. How does it typically unfold?
It starts with neglecting prospecting. Simple as that. Then the pipeline gets stale, empty. That leads to hoping for some magic silver bullet deal to save the quarter.
Which rarely happens.
Right. Then the universal law of need starts kicking in hard. You get desperate. Sales days become stressful, unproductive. It just feeds on itself.
He even shares his own story about hitting a slump early on.
Yeah, and the way out for him was just relentless, consistent, daily prospecting, getting back to basics.
And he makes a really hopeful point for you. Even if you're deep in a slump, committing to that consistent daily activity, you can turn it around, often within about 30 days of focused effort.
That consistency really is the foundation. But he also makes a crucial distinction. Just being busy isn't the same as being effective.
The efficiency versus effectiveness point. Making lots of calls doesn't guarantee results if they're the wrong calls or made poorly.
Exactly. High activity on low potential prospects. Wasted effort. Or great prospects, but your outreach is terrible. Also ineffective. There's so many variables.
Like list quality, industry, timing, who you're actually talking to.
All of it influences both efficiency and effectiveness. He tells that story about the salesperson bragging about making a lot of calls.
But couldn't back it up with numbers or results.
Right. The danger of delusion over data. You have to track what you're doing and what's actually working.
Okay, so if consistency and effectiveness are key, what stops people? He identifies these 3 Ps holding you back. This feels important for you to recognize.
Very important. Understanding these can unlock a lot. The first P is procrastination.
We all know that one, putting things off.
Blount calls it the grave in which opportunity is buried. Harsh, but maybe true. Consistent prospecting isn't something you can cram in at the end of the month. You got to do it daily or weekly at minimum.
All those put-off tasks pile up, leading back to the empty pipeline and that desperation.
Yep. The second P is perfectionism.
Which sounds like a good thing, right? Striving for excellence.
It can be, but in prospecting, it can actually stop you cold. Blount paints this picture of Jeremy, the salesperson who researches endlessly, prepares meticulously for every single call.
And ends up making hardly any calls at all.
Exactly. The prep becomes avoidance. He contrasts Jeremy with Valerie, who just dives in, makes the calls, sets appointments. She might not be perfectly polished every time, but she takes action.
And gets better results because of the volume and the learning.
Right. Often that perfectionism is just fear of rejection or making a mistake in disguise.
And the third P.
Paralysis from analysis, overthinking it, getting frozen by worrying about all the what-ifs.
He mentions call reluctance, specifically here, that dread of picking up the phone.
Yeah, it's super common. Our brains naturally avoid uncertainty, so we imagine worst-case scenarios. Overcoming it just means pushing through that fear and acting.
Letting these 3 Ps rule your work has real costs, emotionally and financially. So how do you break free? Blount's answer is adopting a CEO mindset.
Yes. This is about taking total ownership. acting like the CEO of your own sales territory or results. And a huge part of that is managing your time, your most critical resource.
He even suggests putting CEO on your business card as a reminder. A bit playful, but it makes the point.
It does, and practically this mindset leads straight to the concept of golden hours.
Okay, explain golden hours for you listening.
These are your peak performance times during the day, the hours when you have the most energy, focus. The best time for high-value selling activities.
Specifically prospecting, qualifying, presenting, closing. The stuff that directly generates revenue.
Exactly, and the key, fiercely protect this time. Guard it ruthlessly from distractions, low-value tasks, interruptions. Top performers are masters at saying no to things that infringe on their golden hours.
He has that example of the sales team that boosted calls and appointments just by implementing focused 30-minute prospecting blocks.
It shows the power of concentrated effort. He also mentions Horstman's corollary to Parkinson's law.
Which basically means work expands to fill the time you give it.
Right. So if you block prospecting into focused chunks, you get more done. This leads to the idea of dedicated power hours for intense, uninterrupted prospecting.
Contrasting that with the salesperson who gets sucked into email first thing in the morning.
Yeah, a total golden hour killer for many people. Email is often low value compared to actually talking to prospects.
So to manage the other stuff, he introduces platinum hours.
Right. That's time set aside for necessary but lower value admin tasks, CRM updates, research, non-urgent emails. Keep it separate from your prime selling time.
This focus on time value connects to his point about measuring your worth. The anecdote about the entrepreneur and the home repair.
Oh yeah, that's a great one. The salesperson spent hours on DIY repairs to save maybe $150.
But the entrepreneur pointed out how much potential income he lost during those hours by not selling.
Exactly. In that example, it was like $600 plus lost to save $150.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder to focus your energy on high-return activities. What's your selling time actually worth per hour?
So once you've got that CEO mindset and are guarding your golden hours, what's the focus during that time? He stresses having a clear objective for every touch point.
Absolutely critical. Every call, every email, every social media message needs a specific goal. Maybe it's setting an appointment, maybe gathering one key piece of info, maybe just building familiarity.
And that objective might change depending on the product, the prospect stage.
Right. Transactional versus complex sale, quality of your data, where they are in their buying cycle. It all affects the immediate goal. No aimless prospecting. Be intentional.
This intentionality links to his idea of prospecting as a contact sport and the prospecting pyramid. How do these help you be more strategic?
Well, the contact sport idea is that it starts with gathering info. The pyramid is a visual way to organize your prospects based on how much you know and how close they are to buying.
Okay, walk us through the levels of the pyramid. What's at the bottom?
The massive base is thousands of unknown prospects. Your goal there, basic identification. Who are they? Is there a potential buying window? Who are the key people? Just initial intel gathering.
Then as you learn more, they move up. What's in the middle?
Middle level is prospects where you've identified a potential future buying window and you have good contact info. The goal here is nurturing. Stay top of mind until that window opens. Keep the relationship warm.
Getting warmer. Next up are conquest prospects.
Yeah, these are your top targets, maybe your biggest potential accounts, most strategic fits. Here, the effort intensifies. Deeper nurturing, mapping all stakeholders, pinpointing the buying window, watching for trigger events, building strong familiarity, much more personalized.
And near the peak, hot leads and referrals.
Right. These need immediate attention. They've shown interest. Qualify them fast, move them into the active pipeline. High priority.
And at the very top, the summit of the pyramid.
Those are your most valuable, highly qualified prospects who are actively entering a buying window. This should be your absolute top priority each day. Goal. Move them into a deal cycle and close. The whole pyramid structure is about systematically moving people up by gathering qualifying info.
It all circles back to having powerful lists. Good lists make this whole process work.
Totally. Organized, targeted lists are your roadmap. They prevent wasted effort, keep you focused on the right people. Blount says start every day at the top of your pyramid. Focus there first.
And managing these lists and all this info requires a good system. He talks about owning your CRM like a CEO.
Yeah, your CRM isn't just software. It's your central nervous system for prospecting. Owning it means taking responsibility for the data quality, keeping it updated, logging calls, writing useful notes, adding new leads promptly. Treat it like the mission-critical tool it is.
Okay, let's shift to specific outreach methods. Referrals and introductions, he sees these as incredibly powerful.
Calls them the most powerful and direct path to familiarity. Instant credibility. He breaks down types of referrals and gives a simple formula: deliver amazing service, then just ask.
But surprisingly few salespeople actually do ask consistently.
It's kind of shocking, yeah. Big missed opportunity. He also stresses following up after networking, handwritten notes, texts, LinkedIn requests to really anchor that new connection.
And building on that familiarity, he talks about leveraging familiarity through both company brand and personal brand.
Right. A strong company brand helps, especially for big firms. But for smaller ones, the sales team is the brand, largely. And personal branding, investing in your own reputation, expertise, because ultimately, people buy you.
In today's world, you absolutely have to talk about social selling. Blount calls it the biggest leap since the telephone.
Pretty much. He sees it as essential now. It gives you incredible access to buyer info, context. You can use it to build familiarity subtly, map out organizations, understand motivations, watch competitors.
Though he acknowledges it's getting more complex, maybe more costly to do well.
Yeah, the landscape keeps changing. But his point is, integrating social selling isn't optional anymore. It has to be part of your balanced approach.
And if you're going to do it, you need to be smart about choosing the right social channels and building your online presence, because people will look you up
Instantly. And they'll judge you based on your profile. He warns against sloppy profiles, bad photos, unprofessional posts. It all reflects on your personal brand.
So, recommendations. Consistent headshot, compelling bio.
Yeah, first-person bio telling your story, who you are, values, what you do best, why clients trust you, and make sure your contact info is easy to find. Social can work for inbound leads, sharing content, and outbound, direct messages, or finding contact info.
He offers a framework, the 5 C's of social selling. Can you list those for us?
Sure. Connecting, proactively link with relevant people. Context, understand your prospects deeply. Content, share valuable stuff that educates and builds credibility, not just sales pitches. Conversation, engage authentically. And consistency, regular activity matters.
Okay, moving from the where to the what. Crafting impactful messages is key, regardless of the channel you use.
Huge. Good messaging can cut through resistance. The secret, make it about them, not you. Focus on their problems and how you can help solve them. Show genuine interest in listening.
And deliver it with projecting confidence and enthusiasm, even if you have to manufacture it sometimes.
He acknowledges it's hard but vital. Your internal state shows externally: voice tone, body language. He even mentions research, like Amy Cuddy's work, suggesting posture can affect confidence hormones. Fake it till you become it, maybe.
So what does the ideal prospecting message look like?
Quick, simple, direct, and relevant. It has to answer the prospect's way, IFM, what's in it for me, immediately. Lower the risk for them to give you their time.
He references people like Art Sobczak and Jill Conrath on value propositions.
Right. Pique curiosity. Focus on tangible results, business value. And he brings up that famous copy machine study by Ellen Langer.
The power of because. Just giving a reason increases compliance.
Exactly. Even a flimsy reason worked better than no reason. People respond to having a why.
Which leads to bridging to the because. Connecting your solution to their problem.
Yeah, you got to build that bridge using their language.
Yeah.
He talks about targeted bridges for known problems and strategic bridges, inferring problems from trends. The goal is always to answer their so what question.
He even provides questions to help you uncover those prospect pain points. Feelings about lack of time, money, resources, fear, frustration.
Really understanding their world.
And after building the bridge, you have to actually ask for what you want. Sounds simple, but
It's where many salespeople falter. Often out of fear of rejection, they get vague or passive. Blount says, be direct. Ask for the meeting, the info, the decision maker, the next step, the sale. Be clear, confident.
And that confidence needs to show in your delivery too, right? Projecting confidence through delivery.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Avoid the signs of nervousness, high voice, talking too fast, tense tone, weak handshake. Aim for normal inflection, relaxed pace, friendly tone, firm handshake, direct eye contact. It matters.
Then comes a counterintuitive tip. After the ask, shut up. The power of silence.
Crucial. Stop talking. Let them process. Let them respond, even if there's silence or a maybe. That pause gives you space to handle whatever comes next. The reflex responses, brush-offs, objections.
Let's zoom in on telephone prospecting excellence. A lot of salespeople dread the phone.
Big time. Blount knows this. But he totally debunks the no one answers the phone myth. He shares that training story where they hit a 51% contact rate.
So the phone is still powerful.
He calls it the most powerful tool for results. Speed, reach, his blunt take. Salespeople who ignore the phone fail. Period. He knows it feels uncertain. People often lack good scripts or coaching.
So how do you get better? Start with the scheduled phone block.
Yes. Treat it like a sacred appointment. Block out 1 or 2 hours daily, distraction-free, with clear goals for the calls. Break it into smaller chunks if that helps. Just commit to it.
And he gives a structure, the 5-step simple telephone prospecting framework. What are the steps?
Simple and quick. 1, introduction, you, your company, fast. 2, reason for calling, get to the point. 3, bridge, give the because, the WYFM. 4, ask, confident, direct, assume yes. 5, shut up, let him respond. Relaxed, confident tone throughout.
What about voicemail? The black hole of sales communication sometimes. How do you leave effective voicemail messages?
He gets the frustration, the low callback rates. An effective voicemail, he says, should either get a callback or build familiarity. It's often worth leaving them for top prospects or those near a buying window.
And he offers a 5-step voicemail framework to double callbacks. What's that structure?
Okay. 1, state your name and company slowly, clearly. 2, give a compelling reason, their potential benefit. 3, provide a call to action, specific. 4, repeat your name and number slowly. 5, keep it brief, like 20, 30 seconds max.
And don't stress about finding the perfect time to call.
Nope. He says timing teleprospecting calls is a losing strategy. Consistency and volume matter way more than finding that mythical best time. Just make the calls. Eat that frog.
Okay, inevitably you're going to hear no or get brushed off. He addresses turning around RBOs, reflex responses, brush-offs, and objections.
Yeah, rejection is real. The first reaction is often just a reflex. He gives a 3-step framework. Anchor, agree, acknowledge first. Disrupt, pivot, question, offer a different view. And ask, re-ask or offer an alternative.
And he gives examples for I'm busy, not interested, happy with current vendor.
Right. Practical ways to handle those common ones.
But sometimes you just have to know when the horse is dead, dismount.
Exactly. Don't waste time on prospects who are clearly never going to buy. Know when to move on. Your time is valuable.
What about gatekeepers? They can be a challenge. The secret lives of gatekeepers.
His view, they're people doing a job. Success comes down to manners, being likable, people skills. Be nice, use please. Be transparent, try to connect, know their name, respect their time.
And if you get stuck...
He says sometimes you got to go around. He even shares hacks like calling other extensions or leveraging other salespeople.
What about old school in-person prospecting, IPP? Still relevant?
Well, I don't think so. Despite fears people have, it offers advantages. Learning the territory, maximizing your day if you plan well, building strong familiarity face-to-face, gathering richer info.
He has techniques for it, like the hub and spoke?
Yeah, planning routes around existing appointments. And a 5-step process for the actual drop-in. Be prepared, state who you are and why you're there, focus on gathering info, not pitching hard, make an ask, usually for a future meeting, and leave something behind. Again, often the goal is just qualifying info.
And he encourages you to always put your sales goggles on, be aware of opportunities everywhere.
Right. Don't just go to your appointment and leave. Look around. See that new business opening up. Act on those observations. Always be prospecting, mentally at least.
Let's talk email prospecting. Still a major tool, but inboxes are crowded.
Very crowded. He sees email as powerful, often more engaging than just social, but you have to cut through the noise. Prospects scan and delete ruthlessly.
So how does your email get noticed? His first point. Familiarity gets your email opened.
Makes sense. If they recognize your name or company, they're more likely to open it. He suggests layering channels phone call first or social connection, then email. The triple threat.
And the subject line is make or break. Your subject line must scream, open me.
Absolutely. Keep it short, 3 to 6 words, under 50 characters. Don't use questions. Make it intriguing or clearly relevant, and test different ones. See what works for your audience.
Okay, they opened it. Now, your email must convert. It needs to actually do something.
Right. This requires planning. Audience, method, message, outcome. AMOMO. He laments how many awful prospecting emails are out there, hurting brands. Lack of training is a big issue.
So the elements of a good email.
4 things. Relevant subject line, we covered that. Personal and engaging opening, make it about them. Value-driven body, clear WIIFM, and a clear call to action, what next? He gives a good example email to a bank CEO.
And within the body, he stresses relate, bridge, and ask in email.
Yes. Relate emotionally, show you understand their world, their problems, bridge the gap, connect their problem to your solution, the UBYFM,
Yeah.
and ask clearly and confidently for the next step. He contrasts a bad, self-centered email with his effective model.
What about texting, text message prospecting? Is that okay?
He positions it as personal, immediate, but emphasizes it should generally be permission-based. Good for follow-up after networking. Quick, personalized message within 24 hours.
And maybe after trigger events or for late engagement.
Yeah, like congrats on news, positive comments. But avoid hard selling via text unless you have clear permission. It's a fine line.
He gives 7 rules for structuring effective text prospecting messages. Be brief, personal, clear CTA, good grammar, transparent links, proofread, track results.
Common sense, but easy to mess up.
Okay, wrapping all this technique stuff together is something fundamental, mental toughness.
This is huge for Blount. He says it's what separates the top 1%, the ability to bounce back, resilience, accepting short-term pain for long-term gain, blocking negativity. It's the foundation under everything else.
Top performers face the same grind, the same rejection.
But they lean into it. They don't let it stop them. That's mental toughness.
He breaks it down into 4 pillars: desire, belief, learnership, and health.
Right. Desire. What do you really want? Write it down. Plan for it. Belief. Expect to win. Feel in control. Learnership. Never stop learning books, podcasts, seminars. He does the math. 15 minutes reading a day is like 21 books a year. Health. Exercise, sleep, eat well. Basic, but crucial for energy and resilience.
And he talks about actively managing your mindset. Feed your attitude and attack yourself.
Yeah, attitude stems from beliefs. You got to cultivate positivity, belief in yourself. And attack yourself means always push to improve, raise your own bar, compete against your potential, even when you're winning.
He uses that Steve Young quote about competing against yourself.
Great quote. It's about internal standards.
He ends the core content with a really powerful story and question. The football team and the backyard brawl.
Yeah, the smaller team beating the bigger rival. The coach just kept asking them one thing over and over.
How bad do you want it?
Exactly. Blount brings it back to that. When you face challenges, and you will, the ultimate factor isn't resources or talent alone. It's desire. How badly do you want success?
And he notes how this whole idea of fanatical prospecting isn't just theory for him, it's deeply personal, how he's approached his own career.
It's clearly his core philosophy, not just tactics, but a way of operating.
Okay, so let's distill this for you, the listener. The absolute core message from fanatical prospecting.
It really boils down to this: consistent, proactive prospecting, driven by the right mindset, using a smart, balanced mix of channels that's the engine of sales success.
And remember those key themes. Protect your golden hours like gold. Know your numbers. Build that mental toughness. It all works together.
So an actionable next step for you. Pick one thing, just 1 or 2 specific techniques or mindset shifts we talked about that really hit home for you.
Maybe it's scheduling those phone blocks. Maybe it's rethinking your email subject lines. Maybe it's reviewing your lists using that pyramid idea.
Yeah, pick something concrete you can start doing differently, like tomorrow.
And maybe take a moment to think. Which arguments or stories from Blount really resonated with you, and why? And then ask yourself that final, crucial question.
How bad do you want it? It really puts the ownership back on you.
We definitely encourage you to explore the parts of fanatical prospecting that sparked your interest today.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing this source to us, and thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Remember, taking control of your sales destiny starts with that proactive effort. Day in, day out.